Welcome to Optimized for Humans, where we talk about all things AI and, more importantly, all things human in the workplace. My name is Usha. I'm an executive coach and consultant, and today I'm excited to be speaking with Andrea Herron, who is the CHRO of AAA in Idaho, a keynote speaker, and the author of the book, There's an Elephant in Your Office. She's driven by the mission of changing the world by transforming the workplace, something I really resonate with very much, Andrea. She has led global expansions and transformed organizations by building high-performing, resilient teams where people feel empowered and businesses succeed. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I am excited to be chatting with you today. I wanted to start by asking you, where do you find yourself as an organization in your AI journey?
Great place to start. And I think we are maybe in a unique or interesting position because when you think of AAA, you're thinking, I'm on the side of the road, I need my tire changed, or I'm booking my dream vacation, or getting insurance. So, as a service-based organization, we are trying to figure this out. So we are using it in our scheduling system, maybe call routing for emergency, high priority versus I'm at home and just sometime when you get here is fine. Maybe email, member communication, personalization to provide more member specific data about savings and things like that. So truly, we are at the beginning of figuring out as a human-centered service organization how we can use it, because it is a lot of front-facing relationship trust building versus, producing maybe more on the tech side or something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting complexity, and I appreciate how you're thinking about it deliberately. Because I know the times when I've been stranded on the road. To be fair, that actually hasn't happened a ton in my life, but I know that would be quite a stressful situation. And personally, I can't think of anything worse than like coming across a chat bot or like a bot that's like, press 9, press 7, press 3, and just like, has the kind of like time delay and things like that. And there's something reassuring about just a human saying, hang tight, someone will be there at this time, etc. Um, yeah, so I'm curious to like dig a little bit more into that of like, how do you decide what work could be done by AI and what could be automated versus what you kind of deliberately keep human?
Yeah, this is the main thing we spend a lot of time thinking about in AI and how we integrate it, because you're right. There is just something so reassuring about a human voice on the other end of a phone being like, we've got you. It might take a while, but we're here, versus an automated voice saying, we'll be with you shortly. Just a different experience, right? So we truly consider ourselves a relationship based organization. So we never want to have AI do more human interaction than is needed, but it rather would help facilitate the human connection. So if you're wanting to design a dream vacation, for example, yes, you can Google, you can go on ChatGPT and say, build an itinerary. But what you're not going to get is the expertise of someone who's heard the feedback, who's gotten reports back from people who've traveled, and who knows that what you see online isn't always what you get. And so there is no replacement for that human touch. And so what we're trying to figure out is, can we use AI to almost do a quick screen of a call? Like, are you on the side of the road or are you safe at home? And if somebody says, I'm safe at home, then maybe they do get more of a, someone will be with you shortly, versus I'm on the side of the interstate and that is routed immediately to one of our customer service representatives. And so also AI is getting smart, and it's starting to pick up on inflection and tone and emotion in calls. And so we're hopeful that with some new tools, we won't even have to, sort through that and have someone tell us but rather it's starting to pick up on how they're feeling, which is mind-boggling. But we're trying to figure out what is the right way, because the other thing that I think is really important is, in my opinion, consumers, members, humans, we're going to be drawn more towards organizations that we feel a sense of connection and trust. And so we are trying to keep that at the forefront of our service model. And one misstep and you lose someone's trust. So it is kind of dicey, but it is, you got to thread that needle, and it's really a little hard to know right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the piece around trust is so critical. And I think as AI gets smarter and smarter and more kind of woven into the fabric of our systems, organizations, and society, my hunch is that there'll be more of a premium on the stuff that's human. Much the way that, now that we have email, when I get a handwritten letter from somebody, that's very exciting. Um, this is a total hypothesis, but I think it's a good one to test out. And there's something about how you're valuing trust and kind of putting that in the center that I think is really meaningful. And I'm curious a little bit of like, how do you avoid going after the shiny promise of cost cutting by just using the AI to do most of this stuff and kind of replacing people with that?
That is, I think, something we have a little bit of a leg up on because we are a tax-paying nonprofit. So we keep a nonprofit mentality of we don't want to make that much money. As funny as it sounds, I mean, we need to make money to keep, but everything in excess, we are funneling back into member benefits and doing what's best for the member. And so that really helps us mediate the spend, because if it benefits a member, then we're going to do it. And and so that's what we're trying to figure out. Where is that human touch? I really agree with you as far as it feels almost novel now to get a live person answer a phone. And our members have, I mean, we've been around for 120 years. And it started with, automobile enthusiasts for these new automobiles that came around, right? So there's always been innovation and kind of keeping up with what's new and what's exciting. And we're building a network of fast chargers for electric vehicles because that's new. And it's a little bit of a field of dreams, right? Like if we build it, they will come, but it's only because they trust the organization and they know that we're going to take care of them. And it's a slippery slope to say, but we could save 2% of our cost if instead we routed these people through a phone system or an AI chatbot. It's just at the end of the day not worth the member value, which is what keeps us in business.
Yeah, I really love the kind of balance you're naming between the impact and the customer experience, um, and also having that kind of community driven mindset, and that actually the impact is the thing that's driving the organization. And I guess to some degree, there's this narrative that, when you're in a for-profit context, that there's better customer service, because there's more of an emphasis on that, because there's more resources around that. And if you're in a nonprofit or kind of different way, you have less resources, so there's less of that quality of the experience, but it's more to serve the customer, or the community in the end, et cetera. But it seems like you're really actually threading both together, which I really appreciate, and I think is probably something that all organizations can really, regardless of the kind of for-profit or nonprofit status, I think it's a meaningful thing to champion so deeply.
I agree. I've worked on both sides, and I will say there's definitely a focus on do what is in the best interest of the member in the moment and empowering people to do that, and then we'll deal with it later. Because at the end of the day, we are serving members who reflect every demographic, every type of diverse person that lives in our area. So it's important that we're hiring, we're training, we're leading, and we're supporting everyone. And that has to be at the core of it, because we are truly a reflection of our community, because we are serving the community every day.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of training, I'm curious, what do you think, kind of wanting to pick your HR brain a little bit more, what do you think are some new capabilities and skills that we'll need more of in the next 3 to 5 years, let's say?
This question, I could nerd out on it all day, so I'll be as concise as possible. I think more than anything, leaders are going to need problem-solving skills, empathy, and authentic communication. Because AI cannot replace a leader's personality or how they make someone feel. It can help us create a checklist, reword an email for better tone, or help synthesize meeting notes, but it won't give a person that same feeling as when their leader tells them they did a good job, or gives them a specific compliment or a shout out or some kind of kudos. And so managers, they really need to work on their active listening, communication, and holding that human portion of leadership, because no AI can do that. And the caveat being, that's what we've been trying to train people on. It's hard. It's not different. I think it's just going to be more important and more highlighted in the future, because anybody can Google or come up with it's not a memorization game anymore. It's a problem solving, empathy, communication game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think um, these are the soft skills, right? I know, I'm sure you share in on the hatred of that term, along with many, many others. But they've always been important,
Right.
as we know. And but I think it's an interesting time because they're definitely getting amplified in this moment. I think technical skills they'll always be important, but it's almost like there's like a meta level of, now it's not just like, from an engineering perspective, as an example, it's not just about learning how to write the code, but it's learning how to fix the code. It's learning how to solve the problem with the code. It's like influencing people around you. So it's becoming more and more, it's no longer just like have the knowledge and do something with the knowledge, but it's actually how are you moving through to create change, leveraging all of the different knowledge bases available to you, because you don't have to be the sole knowledge base anymore, which I think is quite a meaningful shift.
Yeah, I think one word you said there that is critical is influence. I mean, we have to be able to influence each other, influence leadership decisions, influence the work, the strategy, the plan. And then, yes, you have your subject matter experts that can execute and use AI and tools to do the work. But that influence piece encompasses all the things we talked about with problem solving, empathy, communication. But that's probably maybe one better word if we had to really narrow it down.
Yeah. What do you think gets in the way of that? Because I imagine like most leaders will vehemently agree with everything we're saying. And that doesn't necessarily mean that um, it's prevalent in organizations.
Honestly, it's because we're human and not AI.
I
It's
like the full circle.
full circle, because humans are people, and we bring our own baggage, whatever happened to us that morning, the bad experience we had with the previous manager, the stress and all of our coping mechanisms, and the mental health crisis and the loneliness epidemic. And just the full human experience does not lend itself to us being, in our ideal state a lot of the time. So it's just a constant focus, constant reminders, tools. That's why we have to hear things about 7 times before they stick. And if you have an accountability buddy or some kind of action that comes out of it, your chances of change go up. But it's hard because we are, in fact, human.
That's very sobering and very true. Do you know what I think is interesting though, as an opportunity? I do think one of the things that really impedes our ability to be more thoughtful and reflective is just how busy we've become and how much busyness has become this status symbol on the one hand, and the status quo on the other hand. And my hope is that with things being more and more automated, that there's more opportunities for us to pause, to reflect, to be strategic, to be collaborative together, to have conversations that, well, especially, like when you were naming the skills, like authentic communication really stood out to me. And I was reflecting on that. And that takes a lot of work to be really honest and truthful and caring at the same time, to share both specific positive feedback as well as critical feedback, to really share how you're impacted by someone, to support someone's growth. All of these things are wrapped up in that. And it actually requires us to have space, right? Those are not the 5-minute hallway conversations. Those are the let's pause, let's go a little bit deeper and explore, all of those things. So my hope is that some of this does shift how busy we feel like we need to be, how busy we have to be, and that we have more space to be a better human than we do currently. I know that when I'm stressed, I'm not like the best human. My humaning is not fantastic, and I think everyone shares in on that.
You are not alone. And I like to say there are no prizes for the busy Olympics. You're right. It's like a
Yeah,
contest now, and it all losers. Nobody wins. It's not the status symbol people make it out to be. And
yeah,
I mean, one challenge I like to give people is to go for a walk without your phone. It almost seems impossible for some people because we're so used to being overstimulated that sitting or walking even without a distraction or a podcast or an audiobook or music, it seems almost so uncomfortable because it is work and it is self-reflection, and that can be hard. But even a 10-minute walk without headphones is so good for you, and it scares a lot of people to the point that they can't even do that. So if you're struggling with this, that would be my recommendation, is to challenge yourself to try and go for a walk without headphones.
yeah. I'm smiling because I was scared when you started saying that. I was like, wait, no podcast, no audiobook, no
Right. I
headphones?
know it's uncomfortable because then it's just you.
I know, but I like to sit with my thoughts with a journal when I'm writing things down. There's something about like open space that I think we are more and more definitely scared of. And but that's also where like I feel like so much creativity happens. So many ideas can come through. Or clarity happens of like, yeah, something that I know, that's when I'm like ruminating and I have like ideas or like dots connect. That's why so many of us have good ideas in the shower. Or like we make sense of the world in the shower because it's just empty space. You're just being in the moment,
And it's
going
about the
through the
only
motions.
place we have like that. So
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah. I'm curious, one of the things that I feel frustrated by in our world is just that, like, I really believe that we do not um, set up our leaders for success, especially senior leaders. I feel like we put them in this environment of going from meeting to meeting, switching modes constantly. You have like large decisions that weigh on you. Um, and all kinds of political kind of factors around you in terms of organizational politics that you're having to navigate. And I think the one thing that I think most leaders can really benefit from is space. And it's also the most premium thing of all. And yeah, I'm curious how you navigate that as a leader, how you navigate kind of change and disruption and still leading empathetically and kind of humaning in that thoughtful, reflective way.
So many thoughts on this. You're right. I mean, it is a premium to have even 30 minutes to do the task you need to do without interruption, much less think about the presentation or the process or policy that's upcoming. One tip, and then I'll answer the rest of your question, that I have found very helpful for myself is to schedule blocks of time on my calendar to just do the thinking or the project work and really treat those as non-negotiable times. Maybe it's only an hour, a week. Maybe you can get a 2-hour block or a couple of 30-minute chunks, but carving out time on your calendar so it's a task and you're busy and you're unavailable for other things has been very successful for me to try and carve out any time at all to think and have that space. But as far as balancing leading kind of with empathy while driving transformation, and yes, the only thing constant is change, right? And one thing that I found all leadership roles benefit from is the framework of change management and using that when there's anything coming, technology, systems, org chart, you have a new leader. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me. How does this impact me? What are the benefits? Should I be scared? What's going to change? How does this impact me? So if you can answer those questions, you will overcome a lot of resistance and you will calm people's nerves. And so that's helpful. The other kind of tip that I have used and highly recommend for other people is we all know who's going to oppose whatever new thing is coming, right? You have your cheerleaders, and then you have those who, no matter what it is, are going to have thoughts and opinions about why it's not going to work. So although it might be counterintuitive, I recommend you include those people in the brainstorm and pilot process because they're not going to go away and they probably have a good point that you're not thinking of. And if you can involve them and get them to even neutral, maybe you're not going to get them to excitement. Let's be realistic. But if you can at least move them from negative opposition to meh, neutral, like maybe it's possible, that is such a win. And so you just have to bring them along. And there is no leadership without empathy, and that means holding empathy for people who don't think like you or who aren't as ready for change, and honoring that acknowledgement is not agreement. But when you move from just telling someone what to do, which creates no culture, loyalty, or really desire to put in extra effort, towards, I see you, I heard your perspective, we may agree to disagree, but we're going to move forward, and you've been seen and heard, then people are like, oh, you have my back, you cared enough to find out. And then they're more easily going to go with that flow and embrace the change. Even if it's still not smooth, it's going to be easier. And that is so critical, especially when the world outside is chaotic, as it has been now for a while. And I have seen in my role in HR, when the outside gets loud and noisy, people become a little bit more spicy, I'll say, internally, because it's the outlet they have. Maybe they can't do something about whatever big thing is going on in the outside world, but they can have a strong opinion about something in their job. And so it's just really trying to let those people be seen and heard and acknowledged and bring them along with care that has been the most successful.
Yeah, and I think there's been lots of big things happening in our world right now, and it does feel like a more stressful time, a more uncertain time, a more disruptive time. And I think with AI adoption as well, I think the companies that treat it like an IT project are really going to have a tough time because I think it requires culture change. And I think that buy-in component is huge because, and rightfully so, I think a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. Um, so this isn't just like your run-of-the-mill change resistance. This is very deeply personal to people, and to actually give them that kind of reassurance and bringing them along, I think will actually go a really long way as part of that.
Yeah, and please don't say, it's fine, nothing will change, you'll be fine, because absolutely something will change. That doesn't mean they're going to lose their job, but some roles will need to change and evolve. And hopefully that's for the better because it's higher level or more interesting, complex work. But just by placating people and saying, oh, you'll be fine, nothing's really going to be that different, will come back to bite you.
Yeah. Andrea, I'm curious what you're most excited about and maybe what you're most worried about as you think about AI adoption and kind of AI changing our world in the workplace specifically.
I mean, it's a good question. I'm the most nervous, maybe, just about the change management piece and bringing people along, because it is fundamentally going to shift things. And for us, we have 5 generations working in our workforce,
Wow.
and that is quite a spread of technology ready and acceptance. And I don't mean just someone who's older is resistant. That's not necessarily true, but it is a big process to roll out anything. And this is fundamentally change. So that is interesting. I think what I'm most excited about is that it will allow us to be more proactive and involved in member human to human connection. I think it will allow us to do more of the good work and the higher level work that really makes a difference and an impact and gets us places faster. Maybe we can have AI help us with routing so that we can get to people quicker, or, there's some way that we can provide better service and it's less mundane, kind of annoying, just type, plug and play work, but rather it brings people more into the mission and the vision and gets them excited about the impact we can make.
That's awesome. I share the same kind of worries and excitement as well. And just to close this out, what's one practical piece of advice you would share with another senior leader who's listening in today?
I love a tactical tip because we can talk all day in theory, but if I could give people something to take away to increase this empathy and communication, I won't stop talking about, it would be the Take 10 check-in. I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, but it is
Oh,
one of my favorite easy go-to tools. So the thought is you check in, could be a direct report, but it doesn't have to be, with anyone, and it should take less than 10 minutes, usually far less, but that's the idea. Anyway, it's 3 questions. How are you? Okay, you'll get something like, how are things going? Okay, it's blah. How's the team doing? Okay, this is the money question, because as humans, we project our experiences onto other people. So nice of us to do. So, whereas, how's it going? You're going to get some answer from that person depending on how much they trust you, what that relationship is, because that's vulnerable, especially if you're their boss. But if you say, how's the team doing? It takes that pressure off, because I'm not saying me personally, but it is still a reflection of that person. Plus, you're going to get some insights about the team dynamics and maybe who's too busy or whatever. And then, how can I help? And if you get something, great. Follow up, you built trust, and you asked, and they know, if not now, but maybe later, you're there, that you can help. So, how are things? How are you doing? How's the team? And how can I help? And those 3 questions will get you so much information in such a short time and build trust to where you can actually keep up with what's going on without feeling like, oh, I have to sit down for 30 minutes or an hour with a one-on-one to find out, which you should still do. But this is more of just the in-between every day. How are things? How's the team? How can I help?
I love that. And I just love the simplicity of that and the practicality of that. I think sometimes it can feel really daunting for leaders when we're talking about empathy, vulnerability, and all of these things while they're just trying to survive another day of meetings. And I love this because this can just be fit into your meetings. It's it doesn't even have to be 10 minutes, especially if you're doing it on a regular basis. Andrea, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you. I appreciate deeply speaking with leaders who really champion and embody empathetic leadership and wise leadership. And it's been a real pleasure to get your insights and thoughts around our world and work at this moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
This was so fun for me too. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.